I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. At a House Budget Committee hearing on Tuesday, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries contrasted the Trump tax cuts to the American Rescue Plan. The New York Democrats said the tax cuts saddle the country with, quote, approximately $2 trillion worth of unnecessary debt simply to subsidize the lifestyle of the rich and shameless. Jeffries claimed that the Biden administration was instead focusing on making the economy better for everyday Americans. Listen in to his remarks here.
Thank the distinguished chair of the Budget Committee. To the extent that there is a public policy problem in Washington, D.C., Exhibit A was the GOP tax scam. That is the Republican singular signature piece of legislative accomplishment relative to the economy that occurred during the prior administration. 83% of the benefits went to the wealthiest 1%, saddling our country with approximately $2 trillion worth of unnecessary debt simply to subsidize the lifestyles of the rich and shameless. That is problematic economics. I'm thankful that we have a president who leaned in to lifting up the economy for everyday Americans, beginning with the American Rescue Plan. A few questions for you, Dr. Coronado. Thank you for your presence here. I thank all of the witnesses for testifying here today. The unemployment rate in January of 2021, when President Biden left office, was approximately 6.3%. Is that correct?
That's right.
And today, with the American Rescue Plan in effect, under President Biden's leadership, the unemployment rate has dropped to 3.6%. Is that correct?
That's where it is, yes.
And that means that millions of Americans are actually back to work, being able to provide for their families. Is that correct?
That's right. We've been creating millions of jobs a year.
And approximately how many jobs have actually been created since President Biden came into office in January of 2021?
Ooh, I don't have that number, but it's several million.
Yeah, I believe the number is 8.7 million jobs.
Yes, that sounds about right.
President Biden came into office, and that is a record in American presidential history for a similar period of time. That is a significant development, and that is meaningful progress for the American people. Is it fair to say that the American Rescue Plan was able to head off a wave of evictions as well as a foreclosure crisis that could have devastated American families all across this country?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, the American Rescue Plan, which was a necessary intervention at a time when the economy was on the brink of collapse, absent that level of intervention, what are the possibilities? There are some economists who expressed grave concerns that at the time we could lapse into perhaps a great recession. Was that a reasonable concern at the time, absent the type of intervention that occurred relative to the American Rescue Plan?
Yeah, I mean, we were in the deepest recession since the Great Depression during the middle of the pandemic. And had we not provided the various waves of fiscal support, we would not have had a quick recovery. In fact, most economists of all institutions and of all stripes were expecting a very prolonged and painful and difficult recovery before that fiscal support was provided. And you would have had a lot more lasting disconnect from the labor force, more failures of businesses, more people losing their homes, much as we saw immediately after the housing crash and the Great Recession. A lot of the thinking was that the recovery would look like that, and that was very halting and slow. And the main difference is the fiscal approach that was taken during this episode, that to err on the side of supporting people, giving them both targeted interventions like rent support and health support, as well as just cash to determine what they needed to spend that cash on, has led to a variety of benefits, including best credit, best wage gains, best credit scores, best wage gains for lower income households that we've ever seen.
Well, thank you. And certainly there are issues that we need to continue to work on, and we're doing that as Democrats in terms of lowering costs for everyday Americans. But the American Rescue Plan was absolutely necessary and decisive in trying to put us into a better space, both on the economic side and as it relates to the public health crisis. Less than 2 million Americans fully vaccinated when President Biden took office. Now there are more than 225 million Americans fully vaccinated, giving us the opportunity to march toward normalcy. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the witnesses for their presence, and I yield back.